I'm Ryan Reynolds, and today we're going to be talking about the SS Kyle, and I'm joined by Mr. Heber McGurk. Heber, thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
And Heber has a history with the Kyle, and so he's agreed to come and talk to us about it, and we're very excited to have you here. So, Heber, can you tell me a little bit about the history of the boat?
Well, I can tell you the Kyle was built in 1913.
Mm-hmm.
She's 223 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
She's 2,100 pounds of steam power. And she was a good rough water boat. She used to carry a lot of freight and a lot of people back and forth to Labrador for years. And she used to leave Carbonear one time. She could carry 100 or so many passengers, but she left Carbonear one time with just with 600, 700 passengers on board. And they were sleeping up in the lifeboats. They were sleeping down the hole on the gear they were carrying to the Labrador with them, and wherever they could place to sleep, they slept. And they used to go into the galley, and the cook used to help them by giving them a scattered bit of food and that to eat, or cook a bit of food for them if they bought the food. And she was good like that, going back and forth to the Labrador coast, right, for years. And my wife used to go back and forth on the Labrador boat every now and then from her hometown. She was born in Seal Islands on Labrador, and she used to go back and forth from Seal Islands to Cartwright to school.
Okay.
And at that time, they were small children, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, put aboard the boat in Seal Islands with no one looking after them, only the crew. And they'd go all that distance, 80 or 90 miles
On the Kyle.
on the Kyle.
To school.
Yeah. And they never had any problem with any misfortunes or anything, falling overboard or anything like that,
Crew took good care of them.
Oh, yes, yeah.
It's a good crew.
Yeah, it was a good crew, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's a nice story.
Yeah. In fact, one of the crew members that was on the call years ago that went out to seal fishery was with us. At that time, he was 80-odd years old, and his name was Ernie Pike. He was chief engineer, and he made a trip with us out to the seal fishery.
Okay.
Yeah, but he was that's the story on that. And when that plane went down out in the ocean,
Oh, we know this too.
all cotton brown was.
Was that the Handley Page? No. Oh my
Old
God.
Glory was the name
Old
plane.
Glory, yeah.
Yeah.
We have it out there in the book.
Yeah.
The challenge of
Well, the Kyle went out and got what was left of Old Glory and bought in the fuselage and all that, and bought in St. John's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think no other boat. They had a few boats looking for it. No one
Yeah.
could find her.
No.
And it was the Kyle.
That's right. The Kyle found it. Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
What's your how did you come to be on the Kyle? What's your background, say, sailing or?
Oh, well, it's a long story.
No, we got time.
It's a long story. I worked at a grocery store in Carbonear for 3 or 4 years. And I was also a volunteer fireman. And one morning, 5 o'clock, the fire alarm went, and the firemen were all going. We had one fire truck and a couple of portable pumps. And someone said, the Manico is on fire. Now, Earls bought the Manico after she was condemned that from the going back and forth to Belle Isle and that. So Earls bought her, and they were going to modify her. So this morning she caught fire, and when I went down with the firemen, all the firemen were up forward, pumping water and everything, and down on this end, the boat was off about 10 feet from the wharf, but there was a stick going down like a pole they had there for a rubber. And Captain Earl at the time was very agile. He was a very agile person. He came down, and he jumped from here, I don't know, 6 or 8 feet, and he made the top of the rail. And when he made the top of the rail and caught hold of the rail broke off because it was burnt off in the bottom, and he went down between the boat and the stick. And when I looked over, I seen him when he fell, and when I looked over, he was floating back up. And I sang out to him, he didn't hear me. So I grabbed the 1.5-inch hose was there, and I throwed the hose out across, and I went across his shoulder, and I sang out again, and I tugged a couple of tugs, and he caught hold of the hose. I said, hang on to it. And I hauled in, and then I helped him up over the wharf. When he got on the wharf, he just about collapsed. And by that time, his friends and his brother was coming along, and they come over, and he said, how are you? I'm all right now, he said. Thanks to that young fella, he said, I would have drowned. And that was all right, so we were talking everything. And when I was leaving, come here, he said, I'm going to do something for you, he said. I said, that's all right, sir. And I left, that's all I bothered. A couple of days after, I was coming down over the hill, and hey, young McGurk, come over, I want you. And when I looked, this was Mr. Earl. So I went over, and I said, yes, sir. He said, I want you to go to work for me. I said, I can't go to work with you, sir. I'm already working. He said, how much are you getting? I said, sir, I'm getting $80 a month. $80 a month? I'll give you $100 a month. Well, sir, I'll have to check it out. And so I went back and I said to the grocery manager, I said, I was offered a job, Mr. Earl, $100 a month. He said, I'll match that. So I went back and I said, Mr. Earl, the grocery man said he'd match that. Go back and tell him, he says, I'm going to give you $120 a month and found. So when I went back and I said, doing $120 price, I can't match that. He said, you have to go to work with Mr. Earl. So that was 1956, and I went down to Mr. Earl's, and he said, you work in the shop here now, and then I'm going to send you to Battle Harbour to work in the shop in Battle Harbour. I said, all right. Now, so I'm a bit confused, sir. I said, $120 a month is a nice bit of money. That's more than I ever earned. But the found part, I'm not sure of. He said, the found part is, he said, he said, the found part is, you're getting $120 a month. I'm sending you to Battle Harbour. You're not paying any freight to go down. When you go down, you'll have a place to stay. All your food and everything will be prepared for you. Everything will be found. That's the found part of it. Well, that was good. It's another $100 a month. And anyway, I worked with Mr. Earl then for over 20 years.
Wow.
I went down and worked in the shop, and from that then I went up collecting up and down the shore, collecting salmon and collecting fish. And from Battle Harbour, I'd go south to Cape Charles, Chimney Tickle, Camp Islands, and Pleasure Harbour, and all those places, and go back. And in the next couple of years, then I'd go around different areas. And in 1962, he said, go on the Burgeo now and go down. It never cost me anything. I got aboard the Burgeo to go to Battle Harbour. And that's the time the Burgeo ran aground on Peckford Island.
Oh, wow.
And after a week or so, we wound up in Battle Harbour. And this night, he come up and he said, you unpacked yet? I said, no, not yet. He said, don't unpack. Tomorrow morning, you're going to Frenchman's Island with Captain Morrissey Johnson and his father on the Maxine Johnson. So next morning, 4 o'clock, I left to go down on the Maxine Johnson. With two interesting dates. The 6th of July, we ran aground on Peckford's Island. That was my birthday. And when we were going to Benson Tickle, I see all the flags up and fellas firing guns in the air, and I said to Captain Morris, what's all this about? He said, the day is the 12th of July, is Orangeman Day, and that's what the flags and the guns they're firing, right? So I went on and I went down in '62 to Frenchman's Island. When he come that night, he said, don't unpack your clothes after I got the battle hammer. He said, tomorrow morning you're going to Frenchman's Island with Captain Morrissey. So that's where I went to Frenchman's Island. And I worked in the shop in Frenchman's Island for the first summer. Then I went out collecting salmon and collecting fish and that on my own boat, or not my own boat, but I was skipper and that, you know. We used to leave Frenchman's Island and I'd go up to Comfort Bight, Penny's Harbour, Boulders Rock, Styles's, Venison Islands, Tub Harbour, and down through Squashoe Run and back down to Frenchman's Island for a couple of years. Then the next 2 years, I went from Frenchman's Island to Weber's Cove, to Sandy Islands, to Five Islands, to Battle, to Black Tickle, Salmon Bight, and to Indian Tickle. Do that every day, back and forth. And I did that till I retired. Yeah, I met my wife down there, and in 1963, 17th of August 1963, we were married.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
How many years is that now?
That was 56 years ago.
That's a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow, that's exciting.
yeah.
All right, great story. What can you tell me a bit more about what you did, like when you first started on the Kyle? Like, what was the ship doing? Like, what?
First, when I started on the coil, I used to just look after the first aid and that, and the canteen. I was quartermaster when we went in the port and stuff like that, and out to the seal fishery, I used to look after the first aid. Anyone cut themselves or snow blind or anything like that, they'd come to me, right? And I'd do up all kinds of wounds and everything else, and same way on the Labrador, I did up all kinds of wounds and different fellas that got hurt or was, you know, and I could tell you a couple of stories about fixing wounds.
Yeah, if you want. I mean,
Yeah.
how we doing? Are we plugged in on the camera, or is like the batteries good? Give us anything.
Yeah. We had one poor fella, I pitied him. He used to, a hard-working man, a good man, hard-working man, but he had a boil on the back of his neck. And that was painful because his clothes used to rub up against it and everything. So my boss said one day, "What, can you do anything for him?" I said, "I'll have a look." So when he come up, he was in some shape. Oh boy, he had some boil in the back of his neck. I said, I'll fix that for you. And he said, "How are we going to fix that?" I said, I'll fix it. So I got a Coke bottle. I put in half full of warm water, put a bit of soap in, and drop of J's fluid. And I put over his boil on the back of his neck and pushed on the couple times, pushed, and by and by everything came out into the bottle. Now I said, I got to take the core out, and then I can hold to the core and haul that out like a piece of pencil. And I put bandages up. Oh my, thank God, he said, I feel better already. And that summer, he worked good and never had an ache or pain after. You know. And one time, an old friend of ours used to go up and down the coast with his boat. He had one of those Cape Island boats, and he had a couple of fellas with him. And when they went down the Black Tickle, they had a Ford engine in the boat, and the fan belt came off. So he reached and put the fan belt on with the motor going and cut the top of his thumb, of his finger. And when he came up, the front of his boat was so full of blood and everything where he sent his hand out over. And my boss said, "Can you look after his finger?" I said, "I can look after his finger, just bring it up." So when he got up, I got a pan of warm water and some Jay's fluid. And Uncle Ace was his name. "Uncle Ace, that looks bad." I said, "I'm going to have to cut that off because it's gone too far. Do what you got to do, boy." He said, "Do what you got to do." I said, "All right." So I kept his hand down there, and after a while I got the scissors and I cut it off. Then I bandaged it up, and now I said, "Keep your hand up like that, and don't move your hand," because he was skipper on the boat and engineer and everything. And they had two young fellows with him, see? I said, "Uncle Ace, who you got with you today?" He said, "I got the Viet Cong with me today," he said. Anyway, he said, "Don't let my son know." I said, "I won't let your son know." I said, "I won't let him know." So when he left to go up, he had to go up through Squasher Run, go up to Tub Harbour. I said to my boss, Harold Vellis, "Call his son, tell him that he's on his way and he's after losing a lot of blood and he's weak." "All right," he said. "Now, don't mention my name," I said, "because I'm not supposed to tell." And he said, "All right." So he called his son. His son came out meeting, and he got in. When he got off on the wharf, he collapsed from loss of blood and death. A couple of days after, they flied him to St. Anthony. The plane came in the fog. They couldn't get there a couple of days. It took them 2 days. And when they took him to St. Anthony, the doctor looked at him and he said, asked him, "Who done up your finger?" He said, "A young fellow down in Frenchman's Island." "But that young fellow saved your life," he said, "because another day or so gangrene would have set in and you would have lost your arm or your life." And that's a few things I does like that, you know.
You were like almost like a doctor on board.
Almost like a doctor, yes,
Almost.
yes.
Okay, that's interesting. What was the day to day like on the ship? You know what I mean? Like, what was your like daily routine like?
Well, we do our shifts, you know. Sometimes we have 4 on, 8 off, or 4 on, 4 off, 4 hours on, working at the wheel and working at things, and then 4 hours time the other fellows would come on. But you'd never get 4 on 4 because you get 3 hours, then you get a half hour to get ready for the next shift. When the next shift come on, then you know they're the same way. A half hour they're getting ready, and so you get about 3 hours. Yeah, 4 on 4. 4 on 8 off wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
You get 4 hours on, 8 hours off because you got 2 more extra men that could work, right? But other than that, it was pretty good, you know. Rough water. Sometimes you could rough. I'll show you a bit on the slides if you got time by how rough what rough is like, right? Yeah, there wasn't too many taking pictures.
No.
Only myself.
Yeah, you were
Yeah,
taking a lot of pictures.
yeah.
So how many crew were normally working?
Working on probably about 8 or 9, 7 or 8 or 9 men. All depends. But out the seal fisheries, with crew and all, you'd probably have 100, 104, 108, like that. You know.
Okay.
Yeah. In my watch, when I was out to the seal fish, I was master watch. I had 26 men in my watch that I would take, you know, out to the ice, out to the seal fishery, and that. Good men.
Good men.
Yeah, good men, yeah. Some were hard cases, but they were good to me. I guarantee they were good to me. I couldn't get any better. Yeah. There's not, the pictures could tell the stories,
The
right?
pictures tell the story.
Yeah,
Okay.
more
Sure.
so than,
All right. Well, we'll get to that.
yeah.
What did you most enjoy? What 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 about sailing on the boat? Did you enjoy? Like, what I think you look back on it pretty fondly.
Oh
Yeah.
yes,
So why did you enjoy it so much? What?
I enjoyed on the boat, and the crew was good, and I was treated well, and everything was good, and uh, it was a good rough water boat, and I used to be at the wheel, and lots of times you put her on her course, and you take your hands off the wheel and leave her 10 minutes, and she stay on that course and go right on straight. Whatever your course you put her on, she'd stay on. But she was good. She was good rough water boat, good ice boat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's neither boat out there could break ice any better than her, other than an icebreaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she was good. Yeah,
That's why she was
yeah,
important for going up
because
to
she was
the
built
latitude.
for ice.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So, let's see. Okay, and you can tell me. I'm going to ask you a question, and if you got a couple answers, that's cool. Um, were there any times when you felt particularly worried or concerned while you were out on the boat? Any time that was, like rough water or something like that, like a scary time?
No, because I'm not a person that gets scared easy.
Okay.
And I never saw any rough. If everything was okay, if the skipper's not worried about things, I let them worry. But I never worried about anything.
So you always felt
I
safe.
always felt safe. I felt secure with the crew we had and the boat we had, and I know we had a good boat.
You had a good boat, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think you could tell us about when you were down in the rough water putting pivots into the boat?
Well, in 1965 was the last year the coil was out, and we got stuck in the ice. We weren't moving, the boat wasn't moving, but the ice was moving, and the ice was moving at 4 knots. And we drifted in on the top of an iceberg, and we just struck the iceberg and around the iceberg, and we popped 21 rivets. Rivet is 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and the heads come off the rivets. And now we were going out into open water, and the D'Iberville came and helped us. And when we got out in open water, the D'Iberville went on her way, and we had to stop the holes because there were like 21 garden hoses. When she lifted over to the uh, port side, 21 holes full, like garden hoses, pouring water into her. And then when she come up, to clear, so we had to stop those holes somehow. So they were looking for someone to go down over the side in a boatswain chair, and they asked me if I'd go down. I said, or asked someone else, and I said, no. So I said, I'll go down. So I got ready, and I went down, and I had a bucket with so many bolts in it, and a wrench. And the bolts were regular machine bolts, and we had a round gasket about 2 inches in diameter, uh, about 2 inches in circumference. Anyway, we put those gaskets about 2 inches square around. Put those gaskets on the bolts and pushed the bolts in. And one of our engineers, Lewis Sims from Carboneer, he used to screw the nuts on, tighten them up. And when I'd watch myself, and when I'd see a big sea coming, I'd hold on and I'd wash up by the side. And when that one passed over, I'd go down and I'd put in a couple of more bolts and then watch for the next one to come, and then I'd go up over the side and then go down again and put in a few more bolts. And I did that, and after 6 or 7 bolts, I had to go up and change my clothes, dump the water out of my boots, and anyway, then I changed my clothes and went down again, and did the same thing, went through the same routine, come up again after 6 or 7 bolts, and after a while I got 21 bolts in, and changed my clothes 3 times. So but I held on when I used to see it coming, but if the rope above broke,
Yeah,
I'd be history.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
It takes a lot of courage,
yeah,
I think, to do something like that.
yeah.
Can you tell us anything about the smoke room? Because I mean, particularly, I think for us who are younger, our image of the Kyle comes from that poem, the smoke
Yeah,
room on
yeah.
the Kyle.
See, the smoke room downstairs, we had the saloon where all the passengers and that ate their meals and everything, and then there was out in the music room where you go out there and play songs, and fellas play tunes and different things. But then, if you want to tell stories or go upstairs or have a game of cards or anything, you go up the smoke room, because a lot of people used to go up there and sit down and tell stories, and if they want to play music and have a little dance, there was lots of room there, right? But the smoke room was as big as this place here, the size, the width of the coil just about, and but and down there was a door like that, see, in the corner, and I used to that was my room, and I had all my medical supplies and everything in that room, and I used to sleep in that room.
Okay, so you were right next to the smoke room.
I was right next to the smoke room.
Oh, that had to be
And if I wanted to come out in the smoke room, I'd come out through that door and out through this way. That's why I used to travel back and forth. But if there's something going on in the smoke room, I'd open the outside door and go through the outside.
yeah.
And I wouldn't have to interfere with the thing, because lots of times, like, there'd be fellows up telling stories. And I remember one time when we were up in North Sydney taking on coal for ballast, not ballast, for fuel, because the coil was a coal burner.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were out the ice, she used to burn between 25 and 28 ton of coal a day. That was her fuel.
Wow.
And uh, when we were in North Sydney, he sent one of the crew members ashore to see if he could round up a few Newfoundlanders. And there's 5 or 6 came, and they come up in the smoke room, and they went up and had a bit of fun. They had music and dancing Christmas Eve.
Oh, wow.
That was Christmas Eve in 1963. Yeah.
So you had like a little party up in the smoke
Oh,
room.
yes, yes.
So it was a very fun place.
Yes,
So to say.
it was fun.
Music,
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah.
So you would
Yeah.
say the poem does
Yeah.
it justice.
Oh, yes, yes,
Oh,
yeah.
well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Now this is the question that you were interested in, and what is your hope for the future of the Kyle?
I got no hope for the future of the Kyle, because he's gone too far now. Underneath is all eat out. You can look from one side to the other right across underneath.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that kept the Kyle there, she was flat bottom, and she was a double bottom. The coil was a flat bottom, then she had a false bottom above her, because then between the false bottom and the bottom used to be full of water years ago to have for ballast.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get coal and seals and that, the weight, they'd pump water out and worked as good, right? But no, there's no hope. The hope is gone. The hope should have been there 30 years, 50 years ago. Yeah. When Captain Earl had the chance, if in what he wanted to do, he couldn't get the work because he couldn't get the money.
Mm-hmm.
If the government had given the money, today she would have been a museum that been looked after and everything, right? But there's no way you can repair, come up $25 or $30 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it'll take that to even fix the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty far gone.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. And it's only a matter of time, because I noticed now on the starboard quarter, on the port quarter, that she's starting to list a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because back on the ramp where they built a ramp for a helicopter, you can see it's sloped a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and, she's gradually settling. Although she mightn't tip over, but she'll settle. But after a while, she'll tip over, because the weight of them spars is going to bring her over.
So you think eventually
Yeah.
it's gonna fall on her side.
Yeah, yeah. It's too bad, you know, but
Yeah, it's really too
it mightn't be in my day or anything, but
yeah.
if she stepped, you know, what they should have done, if they'd got the money, even if where she's at now, in 1967, she went up in 1967. If they'd built a ramp out to her then and set her in concrete or something like that, and dug down, set her in concrete, she might still be good, and you could walk back and forth to her, and people could go aboard of her and everything else, right? And but it's too bad. That's it.
That's it. All right. Well, let's get back to stories. And what do you got? Like, what would be your? Yeah, I mean, this is really open ended
Yeah.
now. Like, what's your favorite story? Like, what's your favorite memory from being on the Kyle? You know, a particular time or something like that. Or is that too hard of a question? I mean,
Boy,
I know
it's
it's
all good
broad.
memories.
Yeah, all good memories.
All good memories. Yeah.
When was the last time you were on her?
Yeah, yeah.
Last time it was the last year she went up to seal fishery. She was never moved after that. 1965.
I mean, that was the year that she got damaged.
That was the year she
That
got
you had to
damaged.
do the rivets.
And then after that, they brought her up in Harbour Grace, and then nature took its course and put her up where she's at.
Mm-hmm.
So 1965 was the last time she was on the ocean.
How was that year besides the damage? Was it good fishery or?
It was fairly good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fairly good. Um, you supplement your income, see,
Mm-hmm.
because where you're getting $120 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and fellas got nothing then on unemployment and stuff like that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and they went out to seal fishery to get a bit of money, to make money. And if we'd have got the seals, they would have made a few dollars, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you couldn't get the seals, and now there's millions of seals out there,
Mm-hmm.
millions of seals, there had to be, because when we finished sealing, there was estimated out at the front about 700,000. Up in the Gulf, there was another 700,000 or 800,000. Down off Grosswater Bay, there was another 800,000 or 900,000, and all those seals were still there and still multiplying. So, you know, the codfish they're living on codfish,
Yeah.
and they're living
big issue.
on whatever they want, herring or whatever, shrill or shrimp or whatever. But codfish mostly, because codfish is a fish that swims in close around the shore,
Mm-hmm.
and in shallow water and off shoals and stuff like that. And the seal are eating those codfish,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
and people can't see that, you know. But that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the other rooms in the call? You talked about the smoke room, but you also said how there was like a place where everybody
A
ate.
saloon
Like
and
what did it look like?
Oh, in the other rooms, I mean, see, they had rooms for the passengers, first class passengers, second class passengers, third class passengers. Because up in the first class passenger, every bit of brass was shining. All the copper and brass and everything was shining. The tables and everything was polished, shine, you know. And same way with all the rails, leave the saloon to go upstairs on either side. All the rails was brass, shining brass. And down in the after, there was a ladies' steerage and a men's steerage. You go down, and the second class people would go down in the second class steerage, the women, and the men would be out in the other one, right? And there's a lot of beds and bunks down there. There were stacked bunks down there, right, on the side and on the middle. And people used to find places to sleep and that, and
yeah.
just you know, that was comfortable. Every bed had a mattress on it and everything else, you know. Yeah.
So So what about the saloon? You said people like to like play music and stuff in there.
Oh
So
yes.
that was very common.
Oh yes,
Did
yes.
you get like the accordion on the
Oh
guitar?
yes, we had people going back and forth playing the accordion, the fellas playing the accordion, and we had people playing the violin, playing the fiddle. We had an old gentleman from Fox Harbour, St. Louis they calls it now,
Mm-hmm.
and Uncle Solomon Curl, and he could play the violin or the accordion, and he could play any tune you want on the violin.
So he was
Beautiful,
very
yes.
talented.
And everyone was there, and there's an accordion going, there's a violin going, there's a piano over there in the corner, and everyone was playing, and the time went fast, and you didn't realize that you were going along.
Having so much fun.
Yeah.
What would some songs be that would be popular to hear?
Oh my gosh, mostly Irish songs, Newfoundland songs, and Uncle Sol used to play one, but I could never remember. Never remember. The two or three, a couple of lines I could remember, but the rest I couldn't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And he was playing on the violin, and he's singing, "The upper of her lip was like the rudder of a ship, and I'll tell you, she looked bad."
So you had a lot of fun.
Oh,
There was a lot of like with the crew. You guys all had a lot of fun.
oh yes, yes,
A
yes,
lot of fun.
yeah.